Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen, depending on where you're joining us from in the world. I'm RJ Horner, and I'm the host and facilitator here from Open Up, and I'm also the vice president for Voice of Men 360. So let me share you a brief introduction about Voice of Men 360, International Men's Day, and why this show, Open Up, is so important. Voice of Men 360 is a not-for-profit organization founded in 2020 and based in Toronto, Canada. Many boys and men are seeking help and support in many areas of their lives. We understand the needs and demands and the support needed when it comes to our boys and men in society. Voice of Men 360 is born out of us seeing a tremendous need and stepping up to provide services to help support and help our men and boys overcome the life challenges they face. We're part of International Men's Day, as we mentioned. International Men's Day has been serving for over 21 years so far and is now represented in 90 countries around the world, joining together to do various activities. And they've been active for 21 years. So we have quite the shoes to fill as we walk in the footsteps of International Men's Day, who has created 6 pillars to represent the overall well-being of men and boys. We're proud to follow in those footsteps. Open Up is important because men and boys are not willing to open our hearts. We're not willing to share our matters with people. And when we keep these emotional challenges within ourselves for any period of time, at some point, these are bound to be released in unhealthy manners. And we want to change that. We want to fix that for our men and boys. And that's why we want to create an open space and allow individuals to share their life journey through our platform. We aim to create awareness about life challenges, struggles, and the overcoming challenges that our boys and men have to go through in their lives. So there's no limitation with gender, age, ethnicity, nationality. We want everybody to share their life journey with us. Our life goal is to make a positive impact in someone's life through this program. Open Up is on Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. to 10:30 Eastern Time. Each week we'll bring out individuals and share their life experiences with you. And before I bring out our guest, I just want to put in a disclaimer here. So Voice of Men 360's mission is always brought forward in good faith. The views and opinions expressed are those of our guests and are not necessarily representative of this organization. This organization is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and is not providing therapeutic advice. If you need crisis individual intervention or therapy, you need to engage the services of mental health professionals. Please do so at the earliest possible moment. We do recommend that. And you may reach out to us if you have any questions or comments or concerns. You may reach out to us through our Voice of Men 360 organization at voiceofmen360.org for our contact. So with that being said, our guest today is a survivor of child sexual abuse, and he belongs to the Gatehouse program, which helps to save lives. They're a peer support group program which gave him his voice back. He transformed his life, and over the last 7 years plus, he's been volunteering at the Gatehouse. He's a program facilitator and the host of Personal Transformation web radio show. Welcome, Stewart Thompson, to our show, to Open Up. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday morning and being willing to share your life journey with us.
Well, thank you for having me here, RJ, and pleasure to meet you as well. And happy to be here on this platform on Father's Day. What better day to be talking about stuff we don't want to talk about?
Men's issues, which don't exist, right? We don't have problems.
Don't have problems. We're steeds. We're big shining knights on our horses, and nothing ever happens to us.
Right. We get it through it. We survive. We're meant to go on. But I mean, look, let's face it. We are human beings, and we go through things just like anybody else in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's say happy Father's Day to you as well. Let's get that off the top of the show, and all the other fathers out there.
And thank you likewise to yourself if you are.
Absolutely. I'm a stepfather, but you know what? I've been with my kids for the last 19 years. So they are my kids. Absolutely. They have their father in their life, but and I'd never take that away from them. In fact, I encourage that relationship to the best of my ability. So, that relationship is very important to our men and boys, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Question for you. Do you hear a dog barking in the background?
Yeah, that's not mine.
No, it's not. So if I have to escape here for 30 seconds, it's only because What I do on a side, we do on a side is we look after dogs, and we have one, unfortunately, is not being too happy at the moment. So I may have to bring him down here with us, but it will only take me 2 seconds to do so. If you allow me to do so we can stop this in the background.
Absolutely. We'll have a better interview that way, I think. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll be right back.
And I love moments like this. It's an unfortunate side effect that we're interrupted this interview because of this. But I mean, this is moments of life, right? So these are things that can happen, and we'll continue on with our interview as soon as we're able to do so. But that's what life's about. Fatherhood and everything else that goes along with it is about living these little moments of life. So Stephen is a man who Stewart is a man who definitely lives life. And he's a busy guy who's got activity going on around his life. So there's another way he gives back is, takes care of animals. So I think we have to applaud him for that and, appreciate that. So I hope he'll be back joining us momentarily. And how's that for timing?
And here we go.
Wonderful. So I hope we're better. So Stewart, I did that second time now. Stewart, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey, why you've gotten involved in the men's work.
Well, I was such a grand piece of work when I went to the house back in 2011. I was a pretty broken man and really didn't have a lot of faith in the system or what it offered from previous experiences. So rather than take the bad road, which meant talking about this word which nobody likes to talk about either, about suicide, that was my path I was going. And I decided to take one last knock at a door, and I found the gatehouse. And from there, I never looked back. Like I say, I was a pretty broken man and didn't really believe in myself for what I was doing or who I was. I didn't even know who I was. So it was a big jump for me, considering that I've had to keep this secret for the better part of almost 50 years. So to actually find somebody that actually wanted to help was pretty overwhelming in the beginning.
Right. And so you say you were a broken man by the time you came to Gatehouse.
Yeah.
What maybe talk a bit about what led you down that path, or at least around the time you explored Gatehouse.
Well, I was pretty heavy into addictions, and I talked about my self-worth. Well, my self-worth was at its, as far as I'm concerned, it was probably at the lowest it's ever been. I remember breaking up with my girlfriend because I didn't think I deserved her. I threw away a bunch of friends. I just had absolutely no belief in myself whatsoever that I was capable of actually being able to carry on. I was in such a dark place. I just could not any means get a hold of myself, when I talk about myself, I'm talking about my feelings inside. I was just like a tornado with a whole bunch of stuff going on, and I could not figure out for the life of me anything about it. I couldn't place it anywhere, and doing so left me suicidal in a really, really bad way. When I talk about my flashbacks and nightmares, all from my childhood sexual abuse, would be nonstop. And sometimes, depending on what happens, depending on if I was triggered, I would go off on a binge, whether it be cocaine and alcohol or whatever was available. That was my glitch to deal with it. But it all caught up with me. And to the point where I just couldn't function. Being numb from the alcohol and the drugs just wasn't cutting it anymore. I couldn't make myself numb enough to get rid of that pain that I carried. And anybody who's been through this experience, regardless of how long, like I've said for myself, if you've been going through this experience and you've had to carry it for any amount of time, it'll eat you up on the inside, And men like myself, we I kept it inside. I was brought up that don't say anything. Keep it to myself because, well, further, to add this, it's not a conversation that we have, or at least in my generation anyway. And even today, the conversation is still very lucid in the sense that you could talk about it, but only in set settings, and people are willing to listen to it. But other than that, it's still very quiet. But yeah, that's kind of what it did to me. It left me in a mad, crazy, tornado-like sort of feelings inside of me, and just left me, not knowing where I'm going or coming. And it's a very, very, very dark place. And, I can explain it till the cows come home, as they say, but facing it head on as I did was the only thing I could do. And that was my last, well, I considered it to be my last knock on the door, or my last chance to actually do something for myself. I'm not a young man anymore. I'm not an old man either, but I'm not a young man either. And I needed to take some kind of control. And that's kind of how it all started. It was just that big mess,
And the decision to take control.
Yeah, exactly. And believe me, taking control of something you have no control of is not easy.
Yes, I understand. Yes, absolutely. So I haven't heard your story. I haven't heard you tell it, time and time again. And I'm sure you have.
Mhm.
But get into a little bit, if you can, with us. How old would you say? You say young boy, but how old were you, if you wouldn't mind, when this happened to you?
Well, it started probably, I reckon it's between 5 and 6 is when my best guess is when it started. And I'm pretty sure that's when it started. Actually, it's around that age, between 5 and 6. And I remember where I was living. I was living in the east of Toronto, in Ottawa area, and that's where actually where it started.
So and it went on for how long, if you wouldn't mind?
Well, when it started then, and it led on to more abuse, and actually, I got it from both genders. So where I was living at the time, that's where it kind of started, and when it stopped, I really don't need to get into gory. I don't need to get into heavy details, but when it stopped, I was 12 going to 13, and that was when I learned to really, really fight back. And that was the last time that I allowed that to happen, other than when I was 14, 15. 15, I should say. And one of my female abusers, actually, well, she not only did she abuse me when I was a child, but she also took my virginity too. So that really sent me on a plane to nowhere, because between the lies and the deception that I was told, it didn't, it just made me more messed up, and big mess. That's pretty much it.
And so I'm just trying to, I don't want to get into your details, but I'm trying to get a feel for your circumstances at the time, and what life was like for you. So were you in foster care, or what was your circumstance? What was your family relationship, if there was one?
Yeah, no, I came from a broken family. At that time, at that age, I talked about my father was already on his second marriage, and I had a younger brother too as well, and I'll get into that a little bit more later on. But it started then, and my father was never around, so he wasn't really even in my life. I think he got married the second time around just so he had someone to look after his kids, my younger brother and I, and that's what it sort of seemed to turn out like. But at the same time, through that whole time of the abuse I talked about, he was never around. So. Yes, I come from a divorced family, and then what ended up happening after he ended up that relationship, my younger brother and I, we ended up moving out to the country to his parents, and even then, he wasn't around, and there's no, thank God for my grandparents, because there's no telling where it ended up, but it didn't matter even going there, because the abuse still continued, and it just was in a different town. That's all. So. I don't know if I'm going to stereotype it in any way and put it anyway. It doesn't really matter what type of a home you come from. I mean, I've heard all kinds of circumstances where people have come from many different wide areas, varieties of home situations, and this sort of stuff happens. Mine was really, really strange, but nevertheless, nothing that I haven't heard of before, where other kids have gone through the same sort of events as I did, and my younger brother did too. We both had the same experience. Granted, not from the same people that I'm aware of, but nevertheless, we both had the same experience.
Got you. No, absolutely. So, and then you said you didn't talk about this. I mean, you had this happening to you. What was that like going through school?
It was really hard because I was, I didn't, as a kid, I was very, very mixed up. So therefore, I would do anything to be liked. So I had a hard time in school. I had a very hard time in school. Uh, just getting the kids to like me. Probably got bullied. Actually, I didn't. Probably I did. I got bullied quite a bit, actually. Maybe I showed a sign of weakness. I have no idea. Maybe my size. I have no idea. But I didn't enjoy school whatsoever at all. Even the good times I didn't enjoy, because I look back and say, no, it was never my cup of tea. And I look at the school systems back then, and again, it was like everything else at that time. There was no help for this sort of thing. And so I never mentioned it in school. I remember going to guidance counselors and them sending me to psychologists and then trying to figure out, well, what's wrong with me? Why am I behaving to the way I was? Because I had my behavior even in school was really, really bad. Even in from public school on, I was a bad kid, man. I'm telling you, if I was a teacher, I would have booted my arse. But still, back in the day when they did that sort of thing, you can't do that nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't recommend it anyway. But I was just in general context, I was a bad kid, and sometimes I probably did deserve what I got, only because I was a very angry child, and that's what it came down to. Was I was an angry child, and nobody knew why I was so angry. And I remember there's only one time I ever really addressed it, and it was with my mother, and she came down to visit my younger brother and I. And this is my biological mother living on the East Coast. So every once in a while we would visit, and I remember telling her something about it, but that's as far as it went. Well, back in the early 70s and late 60s, talking about this stuff, well, like I said, it went to my mother, and that's as far as it went. It didn't go anywhere. So if my mother had talked to my father about it, or any of the other extended family, nothing ever transpired from it. So talking about it is so pinnacle now to change that old beliefs, so young men and men like us can actually talk about this and not have that shame. But back in that time, there was so much shame. I mean, even as a child, I'm thinking about it now, or rather, never mind that. I mean, as a child and growing up, and then going into adolescence, and even becoming a father. Even then, a young father, I remember you couldn't even talk about this. I remember talking about it with my, once I think I mentioned it to my ex-wife, and I realized that she was a survivor too in the end, many years later. But she, like her, we just couldn't talk about it because nobody would believe. Well, maybe not that nobody would believe us, but it's like a dead end.
We weren't allowed to discuss it because, again, it's happened to me twice in my life.
Yeah.
The first time my father was there and I went screaming, and my father interrupted, and there was a big scene. So, but my father did not believe what happened. My father did not believe my version of events, and I'm a very young boy at this time. It happened again a couple years later, and I was fearful or loath to go to my father again. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because he didn't believe me the first time, and that's all I wanted, really, was my parents to believe what happened. And then when it happened a second time, do we go? Do we say something? And what do we say? So there's that stigmatism that we're not allowed to talk about it, right? It's just not a topic of discussion.
Oh, definitely. And, this is what I like about what we're doing here today, because I've been working on this for years now to, for men, not just men, but everybody in general, not to be afraid to talk about this. But the big thing is I really want men to talk about this more, and not to be afraid of, well, the hell, what other people say. I really don't give a damn at this point. I mean, you say what you want. You can't hurt me any more than I've already been hurt, as far as I'm concerned, to any capacity you decide to do so. But that's not what we're talking about. It's about awareness, right? And people like you and myself, RJ, if we're able to talk about it and show other, especially the younger generation, and that's my biggest concern, is the younger generation. Of course, the older generation as well, but the younger generation, they're so vibrant, and they have all these resources now, and they don't think like we used to think when we were kids. And even as young adults, I mean, it's all changing, and we're here at the right time, as far as I'm concerned, to talk about this, to change the stigma even more so, in accompanying to what you've just said, to make this better, so that our boys can come out and talk about this and not have to worry about shame, and not have to live with it all those years, and actually have some kind of quality of life, as where we might have missed out on, as where I know I missed out and others have missed out on it because we weren't able to talk.
Right. I handled mine in a lot different. I would say it made me a stronger person, but I was a very closed off person. I put my shield up because, again, what can you share if there's certain things you cannot share, right? You learn that as a young boy.
Yeah.
So that affected me. One of the things I want to ask is, what made you at that time turn to Gatehouse? What did they do that enticed you at this point? Because I mean, you tried everything. You're loathing. You're down on your luck.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the dregs of society. What caused Gatehouse to change all that for you?
Well, Art Lockhart, he's the founder of the guardhouse, the Gatehouse, I should say. And when I first went there, I really had reservations. I really believed that, well, you know what, I've been stuck in this situation for a long time. I mean, I wanted to be healed, but I also had some reservations whether they could actually even help me. What I really had to figure out was that to the point where, rather, what I need to figure out was, do I really want this? Do I want to heal myself? Do I want to stay living in the past? And that's precisely what I was doing. Well, yes, I had every right to be angry and to be living in the past, but at the same time, it was destroying my life. I couldn't have any quality of life. So I need to get something out of that. So what I get out of that was, after doing the 15 weeks, and I still had reservations just because you tell me that, there's no shoulds in what we're doing here at the house. It was just bringing myself to realize that I'm actually a human being, and what I did, what happened to me was never my fault to begin with. Like with you, RJ, as well. I mean, we had no control. We were kids. Well, unfortunately, we grew up thinking that it was our fault, and a lot of other kids do the same thing, whether it's man or woman. It makes no difference. We grow up believing that it was our fault.
Right. One of the terms of recovery is, you got to remember that it happened to us, not because of us, right? Like we had no hand in that, regardless of the fact that we were there as a unwilling participant.
That's right. I mean, we were only children, but as children, as grown-ups, we seem to push that aside, and we carry that from our child. So when we started carrying our secret, along with that secret came, that fact that, well, you're just gonna live with it, and that's it. That's the end of it. And whatever else happens after that, well, then you'll have to explain, because you're an adult now, and there's nothing else you could do about it. Well, there is something you could do about it. I mean, had to do something about it, and I had to figure that out. And a lot of what I had to figure out was, okay, I'm angry, and I'm at a place where you can help me, but the thing I had to learn was I had to help myself. Right? Okay, I'm an adult now. Then I was a child. Well, it was a different story. If things had been different, well, I can't go past tense now, obviously. But unlike today, if I did go, and if I was to go to a place like WESAP, for example, in Toronto, and I'm a child, well, I'm going to get help. Well, there was nothing like that when we were children. And if there was, it meant going to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And my experience when I was that age, and even then, I didn't even talk about it. They just knew I was messed up. They would just load me full of pills, and I'd be happy on my way, right? Just masking up the pain. But helping myself is my point. Is what drove me, or once I realized I needed to help myself from the Gatehouse, that's what kind of drove me to perpetuate myself, or to push myself to go further and further. And by doing so, and realizing that I was a human being, to whatever degree at that time that I felt that. That helped me realize, well, you know what? If I'm so messed up, I'm starting to believe this now, then you know what? Other men and other people, or men and women, could benefit from what I'm saying, and seeing what I've done for myself. But it's all in wanting to help myself. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm an adult here right now, so now I have to take responsibility. Yes, what happened to me was, of course it was wrong, and then I couldn't do anything about it. But now I have the choice. I have the choice to to help myself, and and to me that was better than being sanctioned in a hospital and receiving shock treatment, pills, years of therapy, which I've had that done in the past, and which absolutely did no good whatsoever. Didn't help me whatsoever. What I had to do was not to have any of that stuff. Was I had to believe that. I had to learn to believe in myself, and by doing so, which I did through the self-help I did at the Gatehouse, that allowed me, never mind my podcast either, but that allowed me to push myself further and challenge myself further to the thoughts and feelings that I'd carried from all that anger all those years, and turn it around into something positive. Because, like my voice, for example, in the beginning of the podcast, you talked about my voice. Well, that was part of my voice coming out as well. Mm-hmm. If I'm able to go and I'm sitting with a bunch of with 10 other men, which I've done countless times now, more times than I can count, and show them a better direction than living like I was. To me, that's worth more than any amount of money that anybody could offer me ever. And out of all that, what I get out of that? What I get out of this is actually I get purpose. I have self-worth, which I never had until I went there. But I had to work for it, for myself. I had to want it. And once I tasted it, I turned everything around 360, just shifted it. All for, it hasn't been all roses. I'll tell you that right now. I've had lots of ups and downs. It's in anybody's progress and moving forward, you're going to have some steps backwards. Well, I guarantee you that I have plenty of steps forward. I have plenty of steps backwards in order to find that so-called self-worth and to believe in myself. When you've been beat down for so long, it's not always that easy to turn yourself around when you're stuck in old habits. I was really stuck, man. I was so stuck, and I see this often, and now myself, even for what I do at the Gatehouse, and it's wonderful to see like someone like myself, what I was going through, not believing anything I could do was worthwhile or I was worthy. And I see other men my age and older and younger, and women too, of course, take a change, and from believing that they're nobody or nothing, and that's where I was coming from, to actually believing they're a human being and there's something again. And to me, that is huge. So that's why I stayed at the house, and that's why I push my voice as loud as I do and knock on doors like I do to try to change this, because I deserve it. You deserve it, RJ, and all the other men and boys out there deserve this type of, treatment and or feeling to be able to move on in life. Right. So that's kind of how it all started with me.
The word I love is empowerment. You know what I mean? Yeah. Every one of us deserves that kind of empowerment. So you've changed your life. You experienced now 7+ years of not only changing your life, but going and sharing your voice to help others grow in their journey and empower others in their journey. Mm-hmm. So tell us what that experience is like, as brief as you can, to give back and to help those people, like you say, to watch that change.
Yeah, it's empowering as well. And not about, but it's empowering in a sense that it motivates me to push further and harder to change that to whatever degree possible. It was never easy to begin with. And, starting it, and I honestly don't know if there'll ever be a finish. For me, there is a finish. The finish is that I did the programs and I stuck with it. And out of that, it's given me the power to, obviously to help myself more, but to help others do the same thing, to help themselves. It's about helping yourself. It's not about, you're here to fix me. It's not about that at all. It's just, you have to take it upon yourself to do it. And that's kind of how it is. That
might be the answer to my next question, but I like to ask 2 questions before we end off the show. So the first one is, what can our men and boys do to help empower their journey, to help take that next step?
Well, it's to take the big step. And what men don't do and boys don't do, we don't ask for help, right?
Right.
And to change that, and you know, if you don't feel safe, you know, talking to your family member, or if you're in school, your school counselor, then seek out somebody else. There is other help out there right now. Like for example, Voice of Men 360, for example. There's resources there that you can go to get help. You're not alone anymore. And I say the stigma is nowhere near like it used to be. So I think that if you are a boy or a man, and you're wanting help, the help is there now. So you just have to take it upon yourself. If you want to live, if you want to stay in that shithole, pardon the way I put that, well, you can, and deal with it the best way you can. Like I did for more years than I care to mention. Then obviously that's your choice. But if you really want to start changing things about yourself, then I would say reach out, because there is help out there now. There's not a lot, but there's a lot more than what there was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even a year ago. And the pandemic has helped bring up mental health in many aspects, meaning more resources. So the possibilities and getting trauma-informed people, I mean, that's really important too. You know, you can seek help, but you know, you need to do your research, and you want to make sure that they're trauma-informed. So that if you have experienced something like what we're talking about today, or you know, or something else, you need to know that that person understands what you're going to be going through, and not just shoot you a bunch of pills and say, you know, call me in a week or a month and see how you feel, and we'll make some adjustments. But you see, men, we don't talk about feelings. But now is the time to change that. We can talk about feelings and not lose our masculinity. I've yet to. I've had the pleasure of been with many men that have gone through this experience, and trust me, you wouldn't mess with these guys at all. You'd think they're just some kind of, you know, just because they talk to their feelings that they're wusses. Well, they're far from that. And this is not what it's about. It's about being, you know, yeah, you're tough, but can you be tough and strong enough to talk about what happened to you and deal with something that you've never dealt with? To me, it would be the question, right? Yeah.
And I think it boils down to, it doesn't matter about being tough. There's another stigma where they're big tough guys because they're big brawny men who can handle it all. No, but you know what? It's about being you, whatever you may be. You know what? We need to be comfortable to be. Look, this is a man. This one over here is a man. This one over here is a man. We're all different. We all look different. We act different. We have different experiences and different beliefs, but we're all men. We're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to feed our families, clothe ourselves, you know, put a roof over our heads. We're all trying to live the same life. Some of us struggle on different levels than others.
Oh, absolutely. And this is the great thing about reaching out, is that if you reach out, you can that helps there now. So
yeah,
it's changed. I won't say
really
take it a complete 360, but in a sense it has, because
we have these conversations now, we can move forward, and other people can have conversations like that as well.
Yeah.
So another thing I like to ask, one last question, is what can we do as a society to help our men and boys overcome their challenges?
Well, to me, that's a no-brainer now. It's just a question of it's they need to open up the doors. In other words, they need to talk about this publicly more. So what I mean by talk about this publicly more, I mean like when these big agencies like CAMH and those places like that, they need to focus on boys, young men, millennials, whoever, and make this a conversation. Not a conversation to scare them away, but a conversation to make them feel good about what will happen if you do come and talk about this. Right. What will be the positives by doing so? It'll make you feel like, well, you want to feel like a man again, or whatever you're looking for to feel again. If you don't deal with this stuff, you're always going to be in that crap hole. You're never, well, you'll have days where you are feeling like you are the king of the world, and nothing can ever stop you. But I guarantee you, by bearing this stuff, that it will catch up with you and out of nowhere, and you'll have no control of what you do or your actions. And, you know, and that's basically what it'll come down to. So I think that if the world or everybody was to get together, and or rather the people or the health agencies, the health agencies and the government were to come together and as a collective and offer and do anything to change the whole stigmas about talking about this stuff, that things would change. Well, it already is done. It already is doing that already without them even helping, to the point that I'm talking about. It already is starting to change just from what we're doing here today and what I see on social media. It is changing already. We don't even have to rely on that because we're doing it.
Yep.
But if they would come into the picture and do more, I think that, our young men growing up today, by the time they get to our age, this should not be an issue. You should be able to talk about, my childhood sexual abuse. If you're feeling suicidal, if you're having a bad day, for heaven's sakes, you shouldn't have to feel shame in talking about that. So This is what I'm kind of hoping will happen in the future.
Right. And like you say, talking about the benefits of coming forward and having these conversations, but also like yourself, we help applaud you because of, again, talking about the consequences of not talking about it, keeping it inside over these years. You know what I mean? You are a prime example of that. So Stewart, you know what? It's not easy for people to come out and talk about. So I thank you for sharing your journey with us today.
Oh, my absolute pleasure, and only too happy to be the one screaming about it, and I will continue to do so over the next, I don't know for how long, but I've been doing this for quite a while now, and really don't put a whole lot of emphasis on the time that I have, other than I want to focus on the time ahead. And we are in some strange times, and I believe that things are changing, and I'm just going to keep going. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stewart, for joining us today and sharing your life journey with us today. Because when people like yourself come forward and share their life experiences on platforms like ours, especially on social media, it'll help give someone hope out there to change their mindset and change their life in a positive direction.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you as well, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, please. If you have closing, go ahead.
RJ, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. We never really spoken before, and I'm actually kind of looking forward in the future. Hopefully we can actually get together in person versus through the realm of Zoom and all the other social media, and we could talk more in depth, because I love what you're doing as well. So, I've been doing this a while, but you're doing it too. So, it's not just one. There's many doing it. And I just want to express my gratitude to you. Thank you as well. And Sabine, you're there in the background too. So.
And back at you. Yeah, we are doing some good work here. Again, spearheaded by Sivam and Voice of Men 360. The Gatehouse is doing some great work. There are many organizations out there to help people in their journey. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, Voice 360.
Thank you. So Voice of Men 360 will be hosting a round table discussion at 1 p.m. today. Let's celebrate while they are alive. Different walks of life will be sharing their memories about their fathers and how we can help young fathers in their journey. On Voice of Men 360, we have 4 live shows. You've just listened to Open Up. People sharing their personal life journey. This is a live talk show every Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We also have Billy, which is a live Tamil talk show. That is Sunday mornings, Eastern Time. We host a monthly webinar the first Saturday of every month from 10:30 to 11:30 Eastern Time, as well as a monthly special show called The Unspoken Tears. This is the second Saturday of every month from 10 a.m. to 11 Eastern Time. The focus is domestic violence against men, bullying, male sexual abuse, and human trafficking. We also host panel discussions. This is once a month. It actually is in both English and Tamil, so 2 different ones. But we would bring different people from different parts of the world and share their perspectives, thoughts, life experiences on particular topics. We turn all of our content into podcast episodes, which are available on all 6 platforms: iPhone, Google Play, Spotify, and many more. And then we have a monthly men's group. Please join us tonight for the 3rd Sunday of every month. This is a men's only support group, so please come and join us for that. The next one again is 7 p.m. tonight, so please join and register, or please come and join us. And then we also have an Indigenous peer-to-peer support group. We call this Pass the Talking Stick. This is the 4th Friday of every month, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time through Zoom. The next one will be on Friday, June 25th. So please join us for that. Pass the Talking Stick. There are no limitations with gender, age, nationality or ethnic groups, all walk of life are invited to participate in our shows. We want to work with all guests, any individuals, organizations, NGOs who are interested in help spread the word and help in our mission and have a similar mission. We're looking to work with all individuals. You can reach out to us. We are Voice of Men 360. Our phone number is 437-889-8329. Again, call us at 437-889-8329. Our email address is info@voiceofmen360.org. So that makes our website www.voiceofmen360.org. And you can find us on all social media platforms under that Voice of Men 360. And please visit our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Voice of Men 360, and find us on all your favorite social media platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and more. And please don't forget, watching this video, to like and subscribe for more. We want to reach out and help more people. Please continue your support. Thank you. Until next time, I'm RJ Horner. Better days ahead.